Please, Mr. Vance. It is raining outside. The triplets will get sick.
Get out. Get out right now. Mr. Vance's massive hand grabbed Sienna's shoulder and shoved her toward the door. Rain pounded the windows. Thunder shook the building. Please, Mr. Vance. It's pouring. The triplets will get sick. Sienna begged, clutching 6-month-old Noah. Her siblings, Harper and Ivy, screamed from their crib. Should have thought about that before you decided not to pay rent. He grabbed a trash bag of clothes and hurled it into the hallway. It burst open, scattering tiny onesies across the dirty floor. Just one more week. I get paid Friday. You said that last month. His face was red. He snatched Harper and shoved the crying baby into Sienna's free arm, then grabbed Ivy and did the same. Sienna stood with all 3 triplets, her body shaking from their weight. Rain leaked through the ceiling, dripping onto her head. Mr. Vance threw more belongings out. Diapers, formula, toys, her parents' photo album. $2,000, Sienna. $2,000. He grabbed the last bag and threw it against the opposite wall. I don't have it. I'm trying. Slam. The door shut in her face. The lock clicked. No. Please. Sienna kicked the door. Mr. Vance, they're just babies. Please. Silence. Thunder crashed. All 3 triplets screamed louder. Through the broken window, Sienna saw the October storm. Rain in sheets, wind bending trees sideways. She sank to her knees. The triplets cried in her arms. She had $7 in her pocket. No phone, shut off last week. No family. No friends. Completely, totally alone. Somehow, Sienna stuffed clothes into a garbage bag one-handed. She couldn't carry everything. Clothes or formula. Photos or diapers. Every choice felt impossible. With one bag over her shoulder and 3 triplets in her arms, she stumbled down 4 flights. Each step felt like climbing a mountain backward. By the time she reached the street, she was sobbing as hard as the triplets. Rain hit her like ice water. Within seconds, they were soaked. The triplets' screams became desperate, terrified. Lincoln Park was 2 blocks away. Maybe there was shelter, pavilion, anything. The walk felt like crossing an ocean. Rain poured into Sienna's eyes, nose, mouth. Her old shoes had holes. Freezing water squished between her toes. Cars drove past, splashing more water. People with umbrellas walked by without looking. Finally, the park entrance. But no covered areas. No shelter. Just open grass, benches, rain, darkness, and trees bending in wind. Sienna's legs felt like rubber. Black spots danced in her vision. When had she last eaten? Yesterday? She couldn't remember. She stumbled toward a big oak tree. Her foot caught on a root and she fell hard. She twisted to protect the triplets, landing on her side. Pain exploded through her ribs. The triplets screamed louder. Sienna tried to stand but couldn't. Her body felt wrong. Too heavy, too cold, too tired, too broken. She pulled the triplets against her chest, trying to warm them with her shivering body. I'm sorry, she whispered, teeth chattering. I'm so sorry. I tried everything. Baby Noah looked up with huge brown eyes full of confusion and fear. Harper's tiny fingers grabbed Sienna's soaking shirt. Ivy's face was bright red from crying. Sienna's vision darkened around the edges. Everything felt far away, so cold, so impossibly tired. Please, she whispered to the rain, to the darkness, to God, to anyone. Please save my triplets. I don't matter, but them. Please, someone, help them. Her eyes closed. Everything went black. Let's make the comment section an interactive one. Tell us where you are watching from. Give us a thumbs up. Turn on your notification button to get our next interesting story. Please do well to subscribe to our channel. Thaddeus Kane was nothing like the heroes in movies. He didn't save people. He made money, billions of it, and was very good at it. At 36, Thaddeus owned Kane Industries, a clean energy company worth $15 billion. He lived in a downtown Chicago penthouse that cost more than most earned in 3 lifetimes. He wore $5,000 suits. He drove cars that cost more than houses. He'd grown up dirt poor in Phoenix. His mother cleaned rich people's toilets while Thaddeus wore thrift store clothes and did homework by candlelight when they couldn't pay the electric bill. He'd promised himself he'd never be poor again, never be powerless again. Through scholarships, 90-hour work weeks, and ruthless business deals, he'd clawed his way to the top. Now he had more money and power than he'd ever dreamed. But he was completely alone. No wife, no kids, no real friends, just business associates. His mother had died 4 years ago. He'd barely made the funeral because of a meeting. He owned houses in 5 cities but never spent more than a week in any. Success was cold and empty, but at least it wasn't poverty. Tonight, Thaddeus sat in the back of his black Mercedes, returning from another business dinner. His driver, Vincent, navigated rain-soaked streets while Thaddeus scrolled through emails, profit margins, acquisition targets, shareholder reports, numbers that meant everything and nothing. "Sir, there's someone on the ground ahead," Vincent said, slowing near Lincoln Park. "Near the oak tree. Go around them," Thaddeus said without looking up. "Sir." Vincent's voice changed. "I think there's babies." Thaddeus looked up. Through the rain-streaked window, he saw a young woman collapsed on muddy grass. She wasn't moving. Around her were 3 tiny shapes, triplets in soaking clothes. One cried so hard it gasped between screams. Thaddeus's first instinct was to tell Vincent to drive on. Call 911 maybe, but keep moving. He had an early meeting tomorrow. But then he watched 2 people with umbrellas walk past without glancing at the scene. A car drove by, headlights briefly illuminating the collapsed girl and crying triplets, then kept going. Nobody was stopping. Nobody was helping. The baby's crying got more desperate, more panicked. "Stop the car," Thaddeus heard himself say. "Sir." "I said stop the car." Vincent hit the brakes. Thaddeus threw open his door and ran into the rain, not caring about his $3,000 suit. Up close, the scene was worse. The girl looked barely 20, her face covered in purple and yellow bruises, fresh ones still swelling. Her lips were blue from cold. She wore a thin, soaked jacket offering 0 protection. The 3 triplets wore wet onesies. Their tiny lips were turning blue. Their bodies shivered uncontrollably. Thaddeus dropped to his knees in the mud. He'd never touched a baby, didn't know anything about kids, but he pressed 2 fingers against the girl's neck, searching for a pulse. There, weak and fluttery, but there. He gently shook her shoulder. "Hey, can you hear me?" Her eyes opened just a crack. Green eyes, even in darkness, filled with terror and something worse than fear. Defeat. "Please." Her voice was so quiet he almost couldn't hear it. "Take the babies. Save them. You can leave me. I don't matter. Just please." Her eyes rolled back. She went limp again. "Vincent!" Thaddeus shouted. "Get over here. Now!" His driver came running with an umbrella and emergency blankets. Together, they carefully picked up the 3 triplets. Thaddeus had never held a baby before. They were so small, so fragile, so impossibly light. Their tiny fingers immediately grabbed his shirt. Something weird happened in Thaddeus's chest. A tight, squeezing feeling he didn't recognize. "I've got her, sir," Vincent said, gently lifting the unconscious girl. They rushed to the Mercedes. Thaddeus climbed in first, and Vincent handed him the triplets one at a time. The heater blasted at full power. Thaddeus pulled off his soaking jacket and wrapped 2 triplets in it. Vincent gave him the emergency blankets for the 3rd baby and the girl. "Northwestern Memorial Hospital," Thaddeus commanded. "Don't stop for anything." As Vincent drove through traffic, running red lights, honking at slow cars, taking corners too fast. Thaddeus looked down at the 3 tiny triplets warming in his arms. They'd stopped crying. Their little eyes looked up at him with complete trust, like he was someone important, someone worth trusting. The tight feeling in his chest got stronger. He'd spent 15 years building his empire, 15 years making billions, 15 years becoming one of Chicago's most powerful men. But he'd never felt anything like this moment. 3 fragile lives depending completely on him. The girl mumbled something unconscious. Thaddeus looked at her face, now clean of rain. So young. Too young for those bruises. Too young to be homeless with 3 triplets in a storm. What had happened to her? "We're here, sir," Vincent announced, pulling up to the emergency entrance. The next minutes were chaos. Nurses and doctors rushed out with gurneys and incubators. They took the triplets and the girl away so fast Thaddeus barely registered it. Suddenly he stood in the emergency entrance, alone, his ruined suit dripping water onto the clean floor. A nurse approached with a clipboard. "Sir, are you family?" "No. I found them. In Lincoln Park. They were dying." The nurse's eyes went wide. "Oh my God. We'll need to contact child services." "No," Thaddeus said firmly. "Not yet. Sir, it's required by law." "I know what the law says." Thaddeus pulled out his wallet and handed her his business card. "I'm Thaddeus Kane. I donated $20 million to build your pediatric wing 2 years ago. I'm asking, personally, for 48 hours before you make that call." The nurse looked at the card, then at Thaddeus's face, clearly torn. 48 hours, she finally agreed quietly. "After that, I have no choice." Thaddeus nodded and pulled out his phone, dialing his head of security. "Jericho, I need a complete background check immediately. I'm sending you a photo now. Full name, address, employment, family, everything. For hours maximum. He should leave. Should go home, shower, change, sleep before his 7 a.m. meeting." Instead, Thaddeus walked to the private waiting room and sat down in his wet, ruined suit, and waited. For hours later, Jericho's report arrived. Thaddeus read it once, then again, then had to set the phone down because his hands were shaking with rage. The girl's name was Sienna Ashford, 21 years old. Until 9 months ago, she'd been a full scholarship student at Northwestern studying aerospace engineering. Her GPA was 3.9, higher than Thaddeus had ever achieved. Then both parents were killed in a car accident. But it wasn't really an accident. A 23-year-old named Travis Kensington had been driving drunk, blood alcohol level 3 times the legal limit, speeding at 90 in a 45 zone, ran a red light and T-boned Sienna's parents' car, killing them instantly. Travis Kensington was the son of Illinois State Senator William Kensington. The case was buried. Insufficient evidence. Despite multiple witnesses, traffic camera footage, and Travis's own admission at the scene, no charges filed. Senator Kensington made donations to the police union. Everyone forgot, except Sienna, because her mother had been 7 months pregnant. Emergency surgery saved the 3 triplets, delivered premature, requiring months in the NICU. Medical bills over $400,000, most of which insurance refused to pay. Sienna, at 20, suddenly had 3 newborn premature triplets, crushing medical debt, and no parents, no other family. She dropped out of Northwestern, burned through her parents' small life insurance in 4 months, medical bills, formula, diapers, rent. She'd taken 3 jobs, barista at 5 a.m., data entry noon to 6 p.m., cleaning offices 8 p.m. to midnight, 18-hour days while caring for 3 infants. 2 months ago, she'd fallen behind on rent. Her landlord, Charles Vance, had been harassing her constantly. According to witness statements from other tenants, Vance had a reputation for bullying vulnerable renters, single mothers, elderly people, immigrants. This afternoon, Vance had beaten Sienna when she couldn't produce $2,000. Then he'd thrown her and the 3 triplets out into the storm. Thaddeus set down his phone and closed his eyes, trying to control his breathing. He understood poverty. He'd lived it. He understood working multiple jobs and still not having enough. He understood powerlessness. But he'd never experienced anything like what Sienna had gone through. And certainly never with 3 triplets depending on him for survival. Mr. Kane. A doctor appeared in the doorway. Dr. Rashida Patel. Someone Thaddeus knew from the hospital board. The young woman is awake. She's asking about the triplets. Thaddeus stood and followed Dr. Patel down the hallway. His wet suit squelched with every step. But he didn't care. They stopped outside a private room. Through the window, Thaddeus could see Sienna sitting up in bed. Her face clean now but covered in ugly bruises. She looked so small, so young. Too young for any of this. Dr. Patel opened the door. Sienna's eyes went huge when she saw him. Oh my God, you're Thaddeus Kane, the billionaire. You own Kane Industries. Thaddeus pulled a chair next to her bed. And you're Sienna Ashford, aerospace engineering student at Northwestern. Or you were. Tears filled her eyes. My siblings, Noah, Harper, Ivy. Where are they? Are they okay? Please tell me they're okay. They're fine, Thaddeus said quickly. The best pediatric doctors in Chicago are taking care of them. They're going to be completely fine. Sienna's whole body collapsed with relief. Then she started crying huge, body-shaking sobs that came from somewhere deep inside. Her hands covered her face. Thaddeus sat there awkwardly. He wasn't good with emotions. But he waited, didn't leave, didn't check his phone. Just waited until she stopped. Why did you help us? Sienna finally asked, wiping her face with the blanket. Her voice was rough and broken. People like you don't stop for people like me. We're invisible. We don't matter. The words hit Thaddeus like a punch because they were true. Completely, brutally true. 2 weeks ago, he'd complained about a homeless veteran in his building lobby, calling it bad for property values. Last month, he'd walked past a woman begging with a baby without glancing at her. I don't know why I stopped, Thaddeus admitted honestly, but I did. And now I know your whole story. What happened to your parents. What Travis Kensington did. What Vance did to you today. Sienna's eyes widened. How do you? I have resources, Thaddeus said simply. And now I'm going to use them. Here's what's going to happen next. Sienna tensed, fear flickering across her bruised face. You and the triplets are moving into one of my properties, Thaddeus continued. A townhouse in Lincoln Park. You'll have a full-time nanny, Estelle, who raised 7 kids. You'll have food, clothes, medical care, everything you need. And when you're ready, you're going back to Northwestern to finish your degree. Full scholarship. All expenses paid. Sienna stared at him like he was speaking another language. I can't pay you back. I don't have any money. I don't have anything. I'm not asking you to pay me back. Then what do you want? Her voice dropped to a whisper. What do you want from me? Thaddeus leaned forward, making sure she could see his eyes. I want you to finish what you started. I want you to become the aerospace engineer you were meant to be. I want those 3 triplets to grow up healthy and happy and safe. And I want to do something that actually matters. Not another tax deduction or photo opportunity. Something real. But why me? Sienna asked, her voice cracking. Thousands of people are suffering in Chicago right now. What makes me special? You're not special, Thaddeus said bluntly. He saw her face fall and quickly continued. What I mean is, what happened to you isn't unique. It's happening everywhere, every day. But I can't save everyone. I can't fix everything. I can only start somewhere. And today, that somewhere is you. Sienna was quiet for a long moment, studying his face. Finally, she said quietly, Mr. Vance still has everything. All our stuff. My parents' wedding rings, their photos, my laptop with all my research, the triplets' birth certificates, everything. He said he's selling it tomorrow if I don't bring the rent money. Thaddeus pulled out his phone. What's his address? Sienna told him, and Thaddeus typed a quick message to Jericho. Then he looked back at Sienna. Get some rest. Everything's going to be different tomorrow. I promise. As Thaddeus stood to leave, Sienna's voice stopped him. Mr. Kane. He turned back. Why didn't you just keep driving? She asked softly. You could have. Most people did. Thaddeus thought about that question. I don't know, he finally admitted. Maybe I was tired of being the person who keeps driving. Maybe I wanted to be someone different. Someone better. He walked to the door, then paused and looked back. Or maybe, he said quietly, I just needed someone to save as much as you needed someone to save you. Then he left, his wet shoes squeaking on the floor, heading home to change and prepare for war. Because tomorrow he was going to visit Charles Vance. And Charles Vance was going to learn what it felt like to be powerless. The next morning, gray light crept over Chicago as rain still drizzled. Sienna slept at the hospital. Noah, Harper, and Ivy stayed in the warm safety of the neonatal wing. Across town, a black Mercedes stopped in front of Charles Vance's rundown building. The bricks were cracked. Several windows were broken and stuffed with cardboard. Trash cans overflowed. Thaddeus stepped out, now wearing a dry charcoal suit and a long black coat. Jericho and 2 security staff followed. Third floor, Unit 3B, Jericho said quietly. That's Sienna's old place. They climbed the dirty stairwell. Faint shouting drifted down. Vance yelling at someone. Rent's due on the 1st. I don't care about your excuses. Thaddeus turned the corner and saw Vance towering over an elderly woman with a cane. Her hands shook as she held out an envelope of cash. That all you got? Vance sneered. You're short again. That's all my check was this month, the woman whispered. Please, Mr. Vance. I'll make it up. Like the last 3 times? He barked. Charles Vance, Thaddeus said calmly, his voice cutting through the hallway. Vance turned. When he saw 3 tall men in suits, his expression shifted to cautious curiosity. Who are you? He demanded. My name is Thaddeus Kane, Thaddeus replied. We need to talk. Now. Vance laughed harshly. Oh yeah? Another charity boy crying about poor tenants? I own this building. I can kick out whoever I want. You don't own people, Thaddeus said evenly. You rent them unsafe apartments for too much money, then hurt them when they can't pay. Vance stepped closer, puffing out his chest. You better watch how you talk in my building. Jericho moved slightly. Thaddeus held up a hand, keeping him back. I'm here about Sienna Ashford, Thaddeus said. The young woman you beat and threw into a storm yesterday, along with 3 6-month-old triplets. Vance's eyes flickered with recognition, then hardened. She owed me $2 grand. Rent is rent. I don't care if she has 3 triplets or 30. No money, no apartment. You put newborns in danger on purpose, Thaddeus said. That's not business. That's cruelty. Vance snorted. What is this? Are you here to pay her debt? No, Thaddeus answered. I'm here to end what you did, and everything like it. He nodded to Jericho, who pulled out a thick folder and handed it to Vance. What's this? Vance asked suspiciously. Records, Thaddeus said. Pictures of broken fire escapes, mold inside walls, broken heaters in winter, complaints you ignored, text messages where you threatened tenants, police calls about your screaming, reports of you taking unreported cash. Vance flipped through the pages, his face losing color. You've been busy, he muttered. That's just 1 week of looking, Thaddeus said. Imagine what we'll find in a month. Vance tried to hand the folder back. None of this matters. I got friends downtown. People owe me favors. I have friends too, Thaddeus replied calmly. Lawyers, inspectors, journalists, people who care about what happens to tenants. Vance swallowed, suddenly less sure. What do you want? This is what's going to happen, Thaddeus said. You're going to return every single one of Sienna's belongings. Her parents' photo albums, their rings, her laptop, the triplets things, everything. You're going to sign a document saying she owes you nothing. And you're going to let inspectors into this building without games or lies. Vance barked a laugh. Or what? You'll write an angry blog post. Thaddeus's voice stayed quiet. Or I'll use every legal tool I have to shut this place down and see you standing in front of a judge. I won't shout. I won't threaten like you do. I'll just bring facts and let the law do its work. Vance looked past Thaddeus at Jericho and the others, then at the old woman still clutching her envelope. This is harassment, Vance tried. No, Thaddeus said gently. This is accountability. For a long moment, the hallway was silent except for dripping water from the ceiling. Finally, Vance spat on the floor. Fine. Her junk's in a storage room downstairs. Take it. But we're not done. Oh, we're definitely not done, Thaddeus agreed. But from now on, everything goes through the courts. Within an hour, Jericho's team had carried out boxes and bags, Sienna's parents' wedding rings in a small velvet box, family photos wrapped in tissue paper, baby blankets, the worn laptop, a few textbooks, a cheap stroller. The whole of her life packed into a few containers. Thaddeus loaded them into the truck himself. As they drove away, he glanced once more at the broken building in the rearview mirror. I used to be proud of winning any way possible, he said quietly. Not anymore, Jericho replied. Feels different when you're fighting for someone who can't fight back. Yeah, Thaddeus said. It does. 2 days later, Sienna stood inside the doorway of a warm, sunlit townhouse in Lincoln Park, her eyes wide. Is this really for us? She asked. The living room was simple but beautiful, soft gray couch, bright rugs, shelves with empty frames waiting for photos. The kitchen gleamed. Upstairs, 3 small bedrooms waited. Yes, Thaddeus said. This is your home now. Noah, Harper, and Ivy lay in 3 matching bassinets in the living room, each wrapped in a cozy blanket with their names stitched on the corners. A woman in her 60s with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair stepped forward, wiping her hands on her apron. You must be Sienna, she said with a warm smile. I'm Estelle. I'll be helping you take care of these little angels. Sienna shook her hand nervously. I've never had help before. It's always just been me. Estelle patted her arm. Well, it's us now. You, me, and Mr. Kane. You don't have to do this alone anymore. Alone. That word had wrapped around Sienna's life for months. Hearing someone say she wasn't alone made her throat close up. Thaddeus saw her eyes fill with tears and looked away, pretending to examine a plant by the window. Your room is upstairs, Estelle said. Come, I'll show you. Sienna followed her, moving slowly like she was afraid everything might disappear. The bedroom was small but bright. A soft bed with clean white sheets, a dresser, a tiny desk by the window. On the pillow lay a folded note. Sienna picked it up. Asterisk Sienna, this is your space. You are safe here. T.K. Asterisk. She pressed the note to her chest, swallowing hard. Downstairs, while Estelle fussed over the triplets, Thaddeus walked through the house with Jericho, checking details. Security cameras are installed at front and back doors, Jericho reported quietly. Only you, me, and Estelle have access codes. No one comes in without being let in. Good, Thaddeus said. I don't want surprises. Boss, Jericho added. She's going to try to refuse your help at some point. People who've been hurt that much don't trust good things. Don't take it personal. I know, Thaddeus replied. I'd probably do the same. Not long after, Sienna came back downstairs. Her hair was brushed, and she wore one of the clean hoodies Estelle had laid out. She looked lighter somehow, like she wasn't being crushed by an invisible weight. "I don't know how to say thank you," she started. "You don't need to," Thaddeus said. "Just rest. Take care of the triplets. When you're ready, we'll talk about school." "You really think I can go back?" she asked. "I know you can," he answered. "I've seen your grades." "You saw my grades?" She blinked. Thaddeus allowed a faint smile. "Let's just say I did my homework." For the first time since he'd met her, Sienna let out a tiny laugh. In that small, simple sound, something began to shift. For both of them. Weeks turned into months. Hospital visits became checkups instead of emergencies. Noah, Harper, and Ivy grew stronger, gaining weight and learning to smile. Estelle filled the townhouse with the smell of fresh bread. Baby toys soon littered the floor. Sienna started taking one class at a time online, then two, then three. Her mind, once buried under stress and fear, woke up again. At night, when the triplets slept, she spread textbooks across the kitchen table and studied aerospace equations with intense focus. Thaddeus visited more than he planned. At first, he told himself it was to check on security or talk to Estelle about supplies. But he stayed for meals, held a baby while Sienna ate with both hands, listened as she talked about her parents' dreams for her. "My mom always told me I would touch the sky one day," Sienna said once, bouncing Ivy on her knee. "I thought she meant it like a joke. Now I know she meant it." "She was right," Thaddeus said quietly. All the while, in the background, his lawyers dug deeper into her parents' case. One evening, Thaddeus arrived looking more serious than usual. He waited until Estelle took the triplets upstairs for bath time before sitting across from Sienna at the kitchen table. "We found something," he said. "About my parents?" she asked, her hands tightening around her tea mug. "Yes, about the case. About Travis Kensington." Her jaw clenched at the name. "What did you find?" Thaddeus slid a thin folder across the table. Inside were printed documents and grainy photos. "The traffic camera footage from the night of the crash still exists," he said. "It was marked as corrupted in the police system. It wasn't. It was just hidden." "Hidden by who?" Sienna asked. "By a detective who got a donation from Senator Kensington's office the next day," Thaddeus said. "We have the bank records now, and the email trail. We also found 2 witnesses who were never called to testify." Sienna stared at the pages, her breathing speeding up. "So, what does that mean?" she asked in a small voice. "It means we can reopen the case," Thaddeus said. "Publicly, with evidence. And we can demand that Travis Kensington face what he did." Sienna's hand covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes, but they were different tears. Sharper, stronger. "For 9 months, I thought nobody cared," she whispered. "We were just erased. Like my parents' lives didn't matter." "They mattered," Thaddeus said firmly. "They still matter. And now people are going to see that." The process was long and complicated. Thaddeus's legal team filed motions. The Kensingtons' lawyers tried to block them. Reporters started asking questions. Old pain Sienna had tried to bury came back up. But this time she wasn't alone. Thaddeus sat beside her through long meetings. Estelle held the triplets when Sienna needed to go to court. Jericho quietly watched doors and parking lots when powerful people began to feel cornered. Finally, almost a year after the crash, Sienna sat in a courtroom as a judge announced that Travis Kensington would stand trial for causing the deaths of her parents. She could hardly breathe. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Microphones were shoved forward. "Ms. Ashford, do you think justice is finally being served? Mr. Kane, are you using your company for a political vendetta?" Thaddeus stepped in front of Sienna slightly, shielding her. "This isn't about politics," he said clearly. "This is about accountability. A crime was committed. A family was destroyed. Now the truth will come out. That's all this is." Inside, away from the noise, Sienna gripped his arm. I don't know if I can do a whole trial, she admitted. Seeing him, hearing what happened again, I'm scared. It's okay to be scared, Thaddeus said. You don't have to be unbreakable. You just have to keep showing up. And you won't be doing it alone. I can't imagine doing any of this without you, she said quietly. Good, he replied, because I'm not going anywhere. The trial was hard. Sienna had to sit in the witness box and describe the night police knocked on her door. She had to listen to experts talk about her parents' injuries. She had to see Travis Kensington in a suit, looking polished and calm, flanked by expensive lawyers. But she also heard witnesses describe seeing him stumble out of a bar that night. She watched the traffic camera footage showing her parents' car driving through the intersection on a green light. She listened as experts explained blood alcohol numbers. After 2 weeks, the jury found Travis Kensington guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to years in prison. Outside the courthouse, Sienna stood on the steps, breathing air that felt different, lighter and heavier at the same time. We won, she said softly. We did, Thaddeus replied. For a long moment they just stood there. Then Sienna said, so many other families never get this. They just lose people and then get told to move on. No justice. No answers. Nothing. Thaddeus nodded. That's true. It's not fair, she said, anger mixing with sadness. Why did I get help when so many don't? Why did you stop for me when you didn't stop before? The question sat heavy between them. Because I finally saw what I'd been ignoring, Thaddeus answered. And once I saw it, I couldn't pretend I didn't. On the ride back, he stared out at the city and made a decision. Helping one person wasn't enough. If his power meant anything, it had to mean change for more than one family. A week later, he called a meeting at Kane Industries headquarters. The top executives sat around a long glass table, staring at a new slide on the big screen. Kane Justice Initiative. We're not just an energy company anymore, Thaddeus announced. We're going to use our resources to fight abuse of power and help people who can't afford lawyers. His CFO shifted uncomfortably. Sir, with respect, that's expensive work that doesn't directly make returns. Our shareholders invested for profit, not court cases, another executive added. I know, Thaddeus said, and we'll still make profit. But profit is not our only measure anymore. Impact matters too. He outlined his plan, dedicating a percentage of company profits to fund legal aid, building digital tools to track corruption patterns, partnering with community groups. Some faces around the table looked inspired. Others looked deeply worried. In the months that followed, pushback came hard. Certain politicians stopped taking his calls. Rumors swirled about government contracts, quietly reconsidered. A few big investors began to publicly question his judgment. At home, Sienna read the articles with a frown. They're attacking you for helping people, she said one evening. It was always going to happen, Thaddeus replied. People who benefit from a broken system don't like it when someone shines a light on it. But they can hurt your company, she said. Everything you built. Then we'll see what stands when the dust settles, he answered. For the first time in his life, he meant it. The real hit came at the annual shareholder meeting. Dozens of people packed the main hall. Investors, board members, employees, journalists. Cameras streamed the event live. A group of large investors took the microphone. Mr. Kane, the lead one said, you have used company funds in ways that do not align with maximizing shareholder value. You're dragging us into controversial cases. We call for a vote to remove you as CEO. Whispers filled the room. Behind the podium, Thaddeus could feel his heartbeat in his throat. Years of work. His life's project. All on the line. He stepped forward anyway. When I started this company, he said into the microphone, I wanted to prove that clean energy could be profitable. We did that. But I also wanted something else. I wanted power, not for its own sake, but to change what I ran away from as a kid. He clicked a button. On the giant screen behind him, a photo appeared. Sienna in the park, holding 3 crying triplets in the rain. We all saw this image in the news, he continued. A young woman named Sienna Ashford and her baby siblings, left to die in a storm because a landlord decided money mattered more than human life. I found them by chance. But their story is not unique. It happens quietly in every city, every day. He showed another slide. Numbers and faces from the Justice Initiative's work. In 6 months, our Justice Initiative has helped thousands of families. It has uncovered serious abuses. It has gotten innocent people out of prison. Has it cost us money? Yes. Has it also created loyalty, trust, and long-term value? Yes. He met the eyes of the room. If you want someone who cares only about quarterly numbers, there are plenty of other CEOs out there. If you want someone who believes value also includes how we treat people, then I'm your person. But I won't go back to pretending I don't see what I now see. When the vote was counted, it was close, very close. Some investors sold their shares immediately. Others doubled down, seeing something bigger than short-term gains. Kane Industries survived. So did the Justice Initiative. But the message was clear. Doing the right thing came with a price. And Thaddeus was willing to pay it. Not long after, Charles Vance tried to strike back. He sued Thaddeus, claiming that the visit to his building and the pressure afterward had ruined his business. In court, his lawyers painted Thaddeus as a bully, a rich man using influence to crush a smaller landlord. Sienna sat in the front row, fingers knotted together. She knew what Vance was really like. But the law didn't always care about what kind of person someone was. Cared about proof. On the witness stand, Vance's lawyer asked Thaddeus, "Is it true you showed up at my client's building with security staff and a folder of accusations?" "Yes," Thaddeus said. "Is it true you told him inspectors and journalists would soon be looking into his affairs?" "Yes." "So you threatened him with your wealth and power, did you not?" The lawyer pressed. In the gallery, Sienna's heart pounded. Thaddeus could have twisted his words, could have played games. But he didn't. "I used my influence to scare him," he said clearly. "Yes, I was angry about what he did to Sienna. I wanted him to feel frightened for once. In that moment, I acted like him, using power to control someone else. That was wrong." The courtroom went silent. "But," Thaddeus continued, "I also have brought records that show years of unsafe buildings, ignored complaints, and patterns of behavior that hurt tenants again and again. If I am to be judged, let all of this be judged, too." The judge ordered a fine against Thaddeus for how he had handled the confrontation. More a warning than true punishment. She also ordered a broad investigation into Vance's properties. Months later, several of his buildings failed basic safety checks. Tenants were moved into better housing. Prosecutors filed charges for code violations and other issues. Sienna watched the news one evening as a reporter mentioned Vance's sentencing. "You could have lied," she said quietly. "You could have made yourself look better." "I used to do that," Thaddeus replied. "All the time." "What changed?" she asked. He looked over at Noah and Harper stacking blocks on the carpet, with Ivy carefully lining up stuffed animals nearby. "Now, when I look at myself, I want to be someone I'd want them to see," he said. Time passed. Sienna finished her classes and walked across the stage at Northwestern in a cap and gown. The auditorium roared with applause as her name was called. At the podium, she gave the graduation speech. "There was a time," she told the crowd, "when I lay in a park in the rain, holding 3 triplets, certain we were going to die. Not because of some big disaster, but because of a series of choices and systems that said people like us didn't matter." She didn't mention names. She didn't call out anyone directly. But she told the truth. "A stranger stopped his car that night," she continued. "He didn't just call for help and leave. He stayed. And then he used what he had, money, skills, connections, to fight for justice not just for me, but for many others. She looked toward where Thaddeus sat in the audience. Not everyone gets that kind of help, she said. That's why we have a responsibility to turn our own second chances into bridges for others. After the ceremony, her younger siblings ran around her legs, tugging at her gown. Did you do it? Noah asked. I did it, she laughed, scooping him up. Later that week, when Thaddeus asked her to lead the Justice Initiative full-time, she hesitated only a moment. I'm scared, she admitted. Good, he said. It means you understand how big it is. But you're the right person for it. She accepted. Under her leadership, the initiative grew. They set up clear rules. No cutting corners. No skipping due process. No shortcut justice, even when tempting. They used tech to connect people to help faster. They trained volunteers to guide families through confusing legal steps. Cases came in from all over: unpaid workers, unfair evictions, people harmed by broken systems. They couldn't take everything, but they took as many as they wisely could. Slowly, word spread. This wasn't just some charity for camera flashes. This was steady, serious work. 5 years after the night of the storm, a crowd gathered at the same part of Lincoln Park where Sienna had fallen. The city had rebuilt the area, new lights, clearly marked emergency call boxes, smooth paths, and a small community center nearby that offered legal clinics and after-school programs. A metal plaque near the entrance read, Kane, Ashford Community Park, a place of safety and second chances. Sienna stood beside Thaddeus as a city official thanked them. Noah, Harper, and Ivy, now school-aged, fidgeted near the red ribbon with kid-sized scissors. Can we cut it now? Harper whispered. Wait for the signal, Ivy reminded her. The official finished speaking and nodded. Now, the 3 children cut the ribbon together. The crowd cheered. Balloons floated into the sky. Later, after photos and handshakes, the crowd thinned. The park grew quiet. Sienna and Thaddeus sat on a bench near the big oak tree. The same one she'd crawled toward years ago. The same one she'd collapsed under. Feels different now, she said softly. Yeah, he agreed. It does. Do you ever think about that night? She asked. Every day, he said. I think about how close I came to telling Vincent to just keep driving. What do you think your life would be like if you had? She asked. He let out a slow breath. I'd probably be richer, have more houses, more cars, more deals, but I'd still feel empty. And there would be 3 less kids playing in this park today. They both turned to watch Noah chasing a soccer ball while Harper cheered and Ivy carefully arranged flowers she'd picked. Do you regret anything? Sienna asked. I regret a lot, he answered honestly. I regret not being there for my mom. I regret many of the ways I used power in the past. I regret how long it took me to see people like you. He paused, then added, but I don't regret stopping that car. I don't regret anything that came after because of that moment. Me neither, Sienna said. It's strange, isn't it? The worst night of my life turned into the start of everything good. Does it ever feel heavy? He asked. Knowing so much started with you? She smiled faintly. Sometimes. But then I remember that this was never just about me. This is about everyone who came after. Everyone who will come after them. A breeze rustled the leaves overhead. The late afternoon sun painted the park gold. You know, Thaddeus said, people still talk about us. I know, she replied. They say we're this or that. They make up stories. Does it bother you? He asked. Not really, she said. They don't see what I see. And what do you see? He asked. She looked at him, not as a billionaire, not as a savior, but as the man who'd shown up again and again, even when it cost him. I see family, she said simply. A strange kind of family, maybe, but real. He swallowed, his throat tight. I see the same. The children's laughter floated across the grass. In the distance, A new group of people walked toward the park's community center. Some looking nervous, clutching folders, others hopeful. "More people coming for help," Sienna said. "And you'll be there," Thaddeus replied. "With a team, with rules, with heart." Together they stood. They walked toward the community center, toward more stories, more battles, more small victories. Because one night, in a storm, a man had stopped his car instead of driving on. Because a young woman, even at her weakest, had begged not for her own life first but for the lives of 3 triplets. Because power, when joined with responsibility and respect, could become something more than money and fear, could become justice, could become redemption, could become a chance, not just for one person but for many, to stand in the light instead of lying alone in the dark. And even years later, every time Thaddeus saw a storm roll in over the city, he remembered. He remembered that everything had changed the moment he chose to see, to stop, and to act. And he never wanted to go back. Let know what you learnt from this story. If you find this story interesting, please share to get to another people. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button.